The sky roared with a vengeance, a charcoal-gray beast swallowing the sun as torrents of rain lashed the earth. In the small, forgotten town of Willow Creek, nestled in the shadow of rugged Appalachian hills in the United States, the river had turned traitor. It swelled beyond its banks, a churning monster of mud and froth, clawing at the fragile homes of weathered wood and crumbling brick. Amid the chaos, a boy of 16, Johns, stood frozen at the edge of the town, his bare feet sinking into the cold, wet earth. His heart pounded as he watched the floodwaters surge, tearing through the only world he'd ever known. A scream pierced the air, sharp and desperate, pulling his gaze to a figure thrashing in the current, a woman, her arms flailing as the river tried to claim her. Without a second thought, Johns ran toward the water, his thin frame trembling not from fear, but from a fire within he couldn't name. This was no ordinary storm, and this was no ordinary moment, it was the kind that would rewrite his life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of selflessness, please hit the like button, leave a comment, share this story, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Your support helps us share more stories that inspire and uplift. Johns's life had never been easy. Born to a family of laborers in Willow Creek, he grew up knowing hunger as a constant companion. His father, a frail man with calloused hands, worked odd jobs at a local factory that paid in meager wages and broken promises. His mother, with eyes that held more sorrow than stories, cleaned houses for neighbors to keep the family from starvation. Their home, a single-room trailer with a leaking roof, was a testament to their poverty. Johns, the youngest of three, had stopped dreaming of a better life long ago. School was a struggle, as he often missed classes to help his father with work, and by 12, he was hauling scrap metal heavier than himself to earn a few dollars. Yet, despite the weight of his circumstances, Johns carried a quiet strength. His heart, though bruised by hardship, was untouched by bitterness. He found joy in small things, the laughter of children playing in the dusty lots, the way the stars lit the night sky, or the rare moments when his mother smiled. But today, as the rain fell like a judgment, joy was a distant memory. The town was drowning, and with it, the fragile hope that held Willow Creek together. The scream came again, louder now, cutting through the storm's roar. Johns's eyes locked on the woman in the river. She was older, perhaps in her 40s, her face pale with terror as she clung to a jagged rock. Her clothes, though soaked and torn, hinted at wealth, a stark contrast to the ragged shirt and jeans Johns wore. He didn't pause to wonder who she was or why she was here. Willow Creek was far from any city, a place no outsider visited unless they were lost. All he knew was that she was drowning, and he was the only one close enough to help. The river was a beast, its current strong enough to sweep away a grown man, let alone a boy who barely reached 5 feet. His father's voice echoed in his mind, "Stay safe, Johns. You're all we have." But the woman's eyes met his, pleading, and he knew he couldn't turn away. Stripping off his shirt to lighten his load, he tied a frayed rope from a nearby fence around his waist, anchoring it to a tree. The townsfolk, huddled under makeshift shelters, shouted warnings, but their voices faded into the storm. Johns waded into the icy water, his breath catching as the current yanked at his legs. The river was merciless. It clawed at him, pulling with a force that felt personal, as if it resented his defiance. His feet slipped on the slimy rocks, and he stumbled, the water swallowing him to his chest. Panic flared, but he pushed it down, focusing on the woman. She was slipping, her grip on the rock weakening. Johns fought forward, each step a battle against the flood. His muscles burned, his lungs screamed, but he reached her just as her fingers lost their hold. With a desperate lunge, he grabbed her arm, pulling her against him. She was heavier than he expected, her body limp with exhaustion. The rope around his waist strained, the tree creaking under the pressure. For a moment, he thought it would snap, sending them both to their deaths. But Johns held on, his thin arms trembling as he dragged her toward the bank. The townsfolk, now gathered at the edge, cheered him on, their voices a faint lifeline. With one final heave, He pulled her onto the muddy shore, collapsing beside her as the rain continued its assault. She coughed violently, spitting out water, her breaths ragged but alive. Johns lay there, chest heaving, his body aching from the effort. The townsfolk rushed forward, wrapping the woman in a blanket, murmuring words of relief. Johns's mother appeared, her face a mix of pride and fear as she pulled him into her arms. "You foolish boy," she whispered, her voice thick with tears. "You could have died." But Johns barely heard her. His eyes were on the woman, who was now sitting up, her gaze fixed on him. There was something in her expression, gratitude, yes, but also something deeper, like she was seeing him in a way no one ever had. She tried to speak, but her voice was too weak, and the townsfolk urged her to rest. They carried her to the town elder's house, the only place with a sturdy roof. Johns watched her go, a strange feeling stirring in his chest. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story, but in that moment, he felt a connection he couldn't explain. Days passed, and the floodwaters receded, leaving behind a town in ruins. Homes were reduced to rubble, fields were washed away, and the people of Willow Creek faced a hunger worse than before. Johns returned to his work, hauling salvaged scrap, his body still sore from his fight with the river. The woman had left the town the day after her rescue, taken away by men in a sleek black SUV that looked alien in the muddy lanes. Whispers spread that she was someone important, perhaps from the city, but no one knew for sure. Johns didn't care. He had saved her, and that was enough. Yet, as he toiled under the sun, he couldn't shake the memory of her eyes, how they held a promise he didn't understand. Life in Willow Creek grew harder. The factory cut hours, and Johns's family struggled to afford even one meal a day. His father fell ill, his coughs echoing through the trailer at night. Johns's mother cleaned houses until her hands were raw, but the money wasn't enough. Despair settled over the family like a fog, and Johns felt it pressing against his heart. He began to wonder if his act of bravery had been for nothing, if the world would always punish the poor, no matter what they did. A month later, a letter arrived. It was a rare thing in Willow Creek, where mail was as scarce as hope. The town elder delivered it to Johns's home, his face unreadable. The envelope was crisp, embossed with a golden crest, and addressed to Johns, son of Vince. Inside was a note, written in elegant handwriting, requesting his presence in the city of Pittsburgh. The signature read, Leela SM. Johns's mother frowned, her hands trembling as she read it aloud. "Who is this woman?" she asked, fear creeping into her voice. Johns had no answer, but curiosity burned within him. The letter promised travel expenses and a meeting that would change his life. Against his mother's protests, Johns boarded a rickety bus to Pittsburgh, his heart a mix of hope and doubt. The city was a shock to his senses, towering skyscrapers, honking cars, and crowds that moved like rivers of their own. He felt small, out of place, his worn clothes marking him as an outsider. But when he reached the address, a gleaming office building with glass walls, he was ushered inside with a respect he'd never known. Leela was the woman he had saved. She sat behind a desk, her presence commanding yet warm. Her clothes were simple now, but her eyes still held that same intensity. She told him her story. A billionaire philanthropist, she had been traveling through rural areas to assess flood damage for her foundation when her car was caught in the deluge. Johns's act of courage had saved her life, and she had spent the past month searching for him. "You didn't just save me," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "You reminded me why I do what I do." She offered him a scholarship, a chance to study, to escape the cycle of poverty that had trapped his family. Johns's mind reeled. Education was a dream he had buried long ago, a luxury as unreachable as the stars. But Leela saw something in him, a spark of selflessness, a strength that deserved a chance. She promised to rebuild Willow Creek, to provide schools, clinics, and jobs. "This is my thank you," she said, "but it's also my belief in you." Johns returned to Willow Creek a changed boy. The scholarship meant he could attend a boarding school in Pittsburgh, learn to read and write fluently, and dream of a future beyond the scrapyards. Leela's foundation arrived soon after, bringing engineers and supplies to rebuild the town. Homes rose from the rubble, a school opened its doors, and a small clinic began treating the sick, including Johns's father. The townsfolk, once resigned to despair, began to hope again. Johns's mother no longer cleaned houses until her hands bled. She worked as a teacher's aide in the new school, her smile returning. Johns visited home often, his heart swelling with pride as he saw Willow Creek transform. But the change wasn't just in the town, it was in him. He studied hard, excelling in his classes, driven by the memory of the flood and the woman whose life he had saved. Years later, he would graduate at the top of his class, earning a degree in engineering. He returned to Willow Creek, not as a laborer, but as a builder, helping to create a future for others like him. The story of Johns and Leela spread beyond Willow Creek, a testament to the power of one act of kindness. It wasn't just about a boy saving a woman, or a billionaire repaying a debt, it was about how a single moment of courage could ripple outward, changing lives forever. Johns never forgot the river, the cold grip of the water, or the weight of Leela's life in his arms. It was a reminder that even in the darkest storms, a small act of bravery could light the way. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, please hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Your support helps us spread these stories to inspire others. And before we end, we have a special request. Please leave a comment below sharing what this story meant to you or how kindness has changed your life. Your words could inspire someone else to act with courage and compassion.